Everyone in this room, I believe, was here for the debate with the council candidates. So I'm not going to repeat the things that were said then, except for some important points. You know that this is sponsored by the West Vancouver Chamber of Commerce and its partner groups. The focus is therefore on business and economic development in West Vancouver. There have been a number, probably more than you care to remember, mayoralty candidate options for people to attend in the last few weeks. And so you've had opportunities to ask questions other than business questions there. There was an opportunity to provide questions during the council debate, and some of those questions will be used again in this particular debate. So let me just go over some of the ground rules. First of all, the West Vancouver Chamber of Commerce is a neutral party in this process and does not endorse any one particular candidate or slate of candidates. The Chamber remains interested, of course, in promoting and advocating for the needs of its business members. And indeed, its members were solicited for questions, and those are the questions that we'll be using this evening. To all the speakers and candidates, we ask that you adhere to time limits given and to follow the directions given by the moderator. There is a timer, and I would just remind you, as I reminded the council candidates, that when that bell goes off, that is not your clue to offer your concluding comments. That is your clue to smile and say thank you and sit down. And if you do not do that, I will do that for you. So just so you know that we're adhering to the time period, and I know that some of the mayoralty candidates are keen on this. This is their first time today, and some of them haven't had dinner. So we'll all stick to the time and be clear about that. I kind of joked the first time, but I think it's important to say it again, that at one time there was a West Vancouver Citizens for Good Government that people appeared before and sought their endorsement, and their endorsement at one time was quite critical to election. That group doesn't exist any longer, and full disclosure, I was on their board for a while. But you essentially are the West Vancouver Citizens for Good Government. You've taken the time to come out, you've taken the time to be informed, and it's incumbent on you to make sure that your friends and neighbors know what you're hearing and your point of view and your perspective, so that there's informed voting in this particular election. All speakers are asked to show proper conduct and be respectful of each other at all times. We'll offer a 2-minute opening statement to each candidate. The question period will involve a question, and each question being asked to each candidate. So different from those of you who were here earlier, where we asked questions to 3 candidates at a time. But as in the earlier session, each candidate for mayor has 2 cards, and they are free to use those cards if they wish to respond to a particular question a second time. So after everyone has spoken, if you want to use one of those cards to respond to a question again, you can do that. But once both are gone, they're done. And there will be no cards used during the last question, because we know that it will be defer and deflect in a second closing statement, so that we won't be doing that. We'd ask that you stick to the questions, answer the questions, and we'll all get along very well indeed. The questions, just before I ask for the opening statements, I'd like to just indicate that the candidates were asked to respond to a survey from the chamber, and I just want to indicate, I'm sorry. And the following candidates for mayor did respond to the survey: Marianne Booth, Christine Cassidy, Mark Sager, and Nolan Strong. And their responses have been prepared and are available in a package in the lobby if you wish to take a copy with you. So I would now invite each candidate to offer their 2-minute opening statement, beginning with Christine Cassidy.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Cassidy. I was elected to council in 2014, occupying the one seat that was offered, not occupied by an incumbent. I am the chair of the District Finance Committee. I emigrated with my family to West Vancouver and have lived in West Vancouver since 1961. I'm a graduate of West Van High, the class of 1969. and I have raised my 3 children in West Vancouver. So I began my business career in 1979 selling photocopiers for Xerox Canada, a highly competitive job to attain and a highly competitive job to succeed in. It was fairly simple. I took a photocopier and my notes, and out I went every day, door to door, rain, snow, sleet, and hail, and one door at a time. In the course of 2 years, I became a national account manager. In 1981, I left Xerox to enter the brokerage industry, again, a highly competitive industry, and 37 years later, I retired in 2017. I pursued that career in Vancouver, New York, and in Hong Kong. I started at zero, and I sold a multi-million-dollar business to secure my retirement. So I understand what it means to build a business from nothing, and I understand what it costs to turn the lights on each day. What did it require to succeed in the world of sales? Well, first of all, you had to be proactive. You had to get out there and you had to earn your daily bread. You had to have excellent interpersonal skills, you had to be determined, and you had to be focused. And most importantly, you had to be likable. And believe it or not, I actually am likable. So that's what it took. You didn't dwell on the past, you learned from the past, and you planned for the future. And I think that is exactly what it takes to be a mayor. You learn from the history, you don't dwell on it, and you move forward proactively.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Sager.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everyone, for coming this evening and for participating and being interested in this municipal election. My name is Mark Sager, and in 1977, when I was barely out of my teens, you gave me the great honor of electing me as a school trustee. I served you in that capacity, and then as board chair, councillor, and in 1991, I brought it just to remember. You elected me mayor. Looked the same, right? It was an enormous honor. Worked with some truly outstanding people, and I think our community, I'm very proud of what we accomplished. I decided I needed to run this time because for the last number of years, and we've all seen it, things have not gone as smoothly at the municipality as they should. Things need to get addressed. My current challengers here have been there. There's no answers for transportation. We all know it's an issue. Nothing's happened. Last time I was on this stage, I was hosting, thanks to some friends who had organized it, a rally against the provincial taxes. They've killed us. They have completely killed us. I took on that same battle when I was your mayor in 1993 when the NDP were bringing in a very similar tax. Myself and Gordon Campbell, we got out on the road and we went to every little community around this province. We rallied the support and they withdrew the tax. And those taxes not only impact all of the values of our homes, but it's also going to impact even the people who have homes that aren't impacted directly by the provincial tax because it's lowering the value of a whole bunch of homes in the community, and the people that have homes that are at the lower end of the price scale, there's going to be a transfer of property taxes across because of the effect of the mill rate. And it's something we all need to be conscious of.
Thank you,
Ladies
Mark.
and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you. Mary Ann Booth.
Good evening. What does the future hold for West Vancouver? Will it remain a sleepy bedroom community with a limited tax base that struggles to meet the expectations of its citizens, where its high street continues to deteriorate and with a population in decline? Or will it find a new future, embracing change and looking forward? Let me be very clear. Under my leadership, West Vancouver will begin to look different. Our seaside villages, particularly Ambleside, will come alive, attracting both residents and visitors, breathing life into our struggling business sector and diversifying our economy. It won't lose its charm. It will, in fact, become charming. A boutique hotel, small independent shops with European-style residences above. all connected visually to our waterfront, which will be left open and green. With a visitor strategy that celebrates outdoor recreation, Squamish Nation traditions, and our history of arts and West Coast architecture, how will I do that? Years as corporate counsel in the hotel industry have taught me that it can be done. In partnership with our new Business Improvement Association and with the Chamber, I would meet directly with landlords to encourage new investment using both the carrot and the stick. I can do this because your council has built a solid foundation. For the first time in 14 years, we have a new official community plan. The local area plans will start first in the Ambleside Town Centre. Add to that the innovative strategies of the new Economic Development Plan, combined with recommendations from the new Arts and Culture Strategy, and you will finally begin to see actions that will improve our community and broaden our municipal tax base. The only missing ingredient is leadership, and I need your support because I can't wait to get started. Thank you.
Rosa Jafari.
Hello, my name is Rosa. West Vancouver is my home since 2002 when I immigrated to Canada as a chemist. I was a chemist and I was working in international import-export big corporations including Shell, Fuji, Honam, all over the world. I traveled and worked in Middle East, Far East, Europe, United States, and here. When I immigrated in Canada, due to the different training courses that I have on job sites, including international trade forwarding laws and sales, marketing, business analysis, and all these sort of things, I was hired with an American-Canadian company as a senior business analyst. And beside that, I also did so many other things like every other immigrant in Canada. Later on, I continued my education. I went back to school again. I studied art, and I finished 3 years program, 2 full-time courses, 6 years together in 1 year, both of them. When I was graduating, they complained and said you were not allowed to get 2 full-time courses at the same time, but I did it and I finished earlier. And then I went and continued my education and got my master's degree in architecture from SciArc, at the time best school of architecture in the world, still one of the 10 best. Some students suicided due to difficulty at school, and because of that their ranking dropped a little bit. So I worked with most famous architects around the world, but I loved West Vancouver. I was working at a school as teacher assistant in the final years, but and definitely, of course, when I graduated, I got some job offers and I started working with them a little bit, but then I really and truly missed West Vancouver and decided to get back here. And at the moment, I am working with an architect, Marco Ciriolo, working to get my licensing.
Thank you very much. The Chamber has asked me to ask you 4 questions, which they would like a response to just by raising your hand, if you don't mind. The 4 of you. You can feel free to be seated. Please raise your hand if you currently own a business in West Vancouver or work in West Vancouver. Please raise your hand if you currently own a second home or investment property in West Vancouver. Please raise your hand if you have read the recently adopted District of West Vancouver Economic Development Plan. Please raise your hand if you have read the new official community plan. Thank you. First question, with your indulgence, I'm going to call you by your first names only. I hope you don't mind, since there's only 4 of you, and it will allow a bit more time. So, and I won't call you in the same order always, because it seems a little unfair. So the first question is, why are you running for mayor, and why do you believe that you're the best qualified for this position? Christine?
Why am I running for mayor? Oops. Well, quite simply, I love West Vancouver. I love West Vancouver, and I have the skill set both by way of my business background and by way of my degree, and by way of my determination and my community involvement. I have been part of petition processes that have seen, for example, the Grosvenor, the extension to the ferry building. I have been actively involved in this community. I am passionate about it, and I do think that I have what it takes to take it to the next level. And it is very important for me, as we develop through those local area plans, that we are respectful of our neighborhood communities and that we are respectful of exactly who we are, which is a small town, seaside community. That is our brand, and that's how we need to remain, even as we develop, because that is what is going to attract businesses to us and attract those businesses and citizens away and tourists away from Park Royal. We will be the small town, chic place to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosa?
I decided to be a candidate for mayor because although I love everybody and I love this city, you know that I was an immigrant and I bent backward to make things work. But unfortunately, life was like a mirage. No matter how hard I tried, housing prices every day went higher, traffic was worse. Still, this is the best city to live. But although I was never involved in politics, I never wanted to be a politician, I felt the need of jumping. I looked at the candidates, I love all of them, I know all of them tried, but unfortunately I didn't see any fresh voice. And I thought, if I don't come in, how should I expect the others to be part of the community?
Thank you.
Involvement, thank you.
Thank you. Marianne, why do you believe you are best qualified for this position?
Why am I running for mayor? I, like all of you, love West Vancouver, but I've seen over the past 13 years in public office that we are facing some serious challenges, and you all know what they are. Why is it that we have traffic congestion, yet our population is in decline? Why do we have the most beautiful waterfront, yet our town center is stagnating? And why do we have 1,700 empty homes, but young families and downsizers struggle to find a place to live? So these are serious challenges, and I believe that I have the experience, the passion, and the vision to find that common ground, to find the sweet spot. We do have to move forward on 5 critical issues around housing, around transportation, around our commercial villages, protecting our beautiful natural environment, but also, most importantly, I think, finding a sense of well-being and meaning for all of our residents, including our newcomers, so that everyone has a sense of belonging. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, why do you believe you are best qualified for this position?
Thanks very much, Ken. Ladies and gentlemen, I was born into this community. My bedroom still exists above the Feast restaurant in Dunderav. My father is the person that put the flowers down the middle of the road, and he even decided we should put the little breaks in the flowers so people can jaywalk. And I'm sorry, I love the character of our community, and it kills me to see changes to that. There is definitely a value that has brought us all together. That's one of the reasons. The other reason, and it's something that we all need to be thinking about, as you know, we've seen an enormous turnover of mayors at the metro level. During my previous time of service to you, I was elected by the 16 other mayors in Metro Vancouver to be the vice chair. It's the only time a mayor from West Vancouver has held that position before or after no one else has done it. And we need somebody with enormous experience at the metro level, because otherwise what happens is the staff simply takes over. There's a void. It's nothing against them, but they just fill the void. There's no corporate history. We need that. And it's the same thing with our municipality. I just love this place too much to see it deteriorate. I have a business in Ambleside, and I have a business in Horseshoe Bay. And you know, little things, it breaks my heart when I walk up and down the streets in Ambleside every day, and they're simply not clean enough. There is no excuse. I just think we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. How do you see or describe your role as mayor, Marianne?
So the role of the mayor is to ensure that things get done. Even though we call it a weak mayor system, where I only have one vote, it's about moving your team forward. It's about collaborating. It's about finding that common ground. It's about creating a positive work culture where your staff are innovating and coming up with solutions. So the mayor is the leader, and I do believe that I have those leadership qualities. I've got the proven leadership. I was chair of the school board for 3 years, 6 years on school board, and I listened, I learned. It's about listening to the community as well. And I do believe I call it the sweet spot. And, but it takes work. You gotta be proactive. You gotta roll up your sleeves. I've shown that. I'm a doer. I get out there, and when I sat on the Hollyburn Lodge Committee, I moved things forward. When I came up with the Locals First initiative out in Horseshoe Bay, that's innovative, that's trying new things. And then speaking to your councillors and doing that work ahead of time. And if it means that we're having more meetings and more briefing sessions, so be it. These are very complex issues. Don't be fooled that these are simple, common sense solutions. And the thing is, though, I do fundamentally believe that that 7 voices at council are better than 1, and you can come up with, you can solve problems when you listen and when you work together. Thank you.
Christine?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the question? My apologies.
Absolutely. How do you see or describe your role as mayor?
Well, first of all, I think a mayor has to have the strength of character and the determination to be able to lead the council that has been elected to work beside them. In essence, what a mayor really is just the captain of the ship. And you have to all be working in the same direction. And that takes leadership, that takes determination, that takes strength of character. I also think that a good mayor needs to have a business background, needs to comprehend what hard work means, and needs to have a vision for the future. I think a good mayor also has to have had an ability to have engaged at many levels within the community, at a grassroots level. It has to have potentially sat on boards. I've sat on the boards of Ballet BC, fundraising committees for Children's Hospital, Covenant House, Ballet BC yet again. So you have to have a wider vision, not only of West Vancouver, but also of the community which surrounds you, which is Greater Vancouver. And you have to have an understanding of the issues which you are going to have to be resolving. When you talk about our workers not being able to be within our community, you have to be able to comprehend on a global issue that this is just not unique to West Vancouver. This is the lowest unemployment record that we've had in the last 37 years. In the United States, it's the last 50 years. You have to understand that housing affordability is not just an issue that is relevant to West Vancouver. The issues that we are experiencing are not unique to West Vancouver, and you have to be able to comprehend that. In my investment experience, we began to see the world globally in the 1980s. I have worked through very difficult situations, the Wall Street crash of 1987, the tech meltdown of 2001, the economic crisis of 2008 and 2009. I have the emotional resiliency and the mental stability to be able to guide this community forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, how do you see or describe your role as mayor?
Thanks very much. The job of mayor is clearly, ladies and gentlemen, to get everyone to work together. I'm really humbled by some of the incredibly nice things people who have written in, who worked with me before, have said. And I think rather than me telling you about how great I am, I would like to just read, I would like to read with as much modesty as I can possibly have. I know, how do you do it, right? But Mark Sager is exceedingly capable, competent, is an exceedingly capable, competent leader and a skilled negotiator and mediator. Mark brings extra, very important qualities to the leadership of this community: dignity and respect. Mark conducts himself with a dignity befitting the responsibilities and is respectful of this community, its residents, our assets, and staff. In every issue, Mark Sager is instinctively and without doubt unwaveringly ethical. He is honest and forthright, holds the community's best interests in every consideration, and unerringly takes the high road. I have, and you can too, every confidence that West Vancouver will be well served with Mark Sager as mayor. I thank Grant Churchill, our very, very competent chief of police, now retired, for sending that. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you. Rosa?
Thank you. I have to sit because of the microphone, my apology. I believe that a mayor for our society should be someone who understands different cultures. Because here, this community is very diversified. I believe that our mayor should be passionate, decisive, honest, with the guts to address the issues of our society. I believe our mayor should understand new technologies, as the technology is progressing scary fast. The meetings today is about the small business owners. I think what our small business owners are missing is not catching up very well with the new technology as well. That's part of the problems that they have. I believe that the mayor should be able to use and take advantage of the assets that we already have, being both intellectual assets, the assets of having diversity in our community, financial assets of our investors. Our mayor should be able to put together all of these assets and direct them in the right way to lead us to solve the problems that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. I mentioned in the first session that we weren't taking questions from the audience, and I felt I should explain why, and that's because many of you simply forgot to file your nomination papers to be mayor. So when we have a question, you want to make your opening statement before we actually get to the question. Now, some people believe that doesn't actually happen, but I have to tell you, we gave the opportunity to write out questions and put them in a box, and we would choose some to ask. Well, I have pages of speeches that I'm boiling down to one question, which is, what are you going to do about the school tax, Mark?
Okay. You know, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't mean to be unkind, but today when I read the Vancouver Sun, and I see that the province is carrying on with their speculation, capital tax as it should properly be called, and the school tax and all of these things which are hitting our community. We've got to do what we did before. My colleague here criticized me for chairing the tax rally that we had here on June 7th, which was attended by as many people as there are tonight. We need to get together with communities all around this province and get the province to fundamentally understand that the property tax base is the base we rely on to fund our needed roads, sewers, our infrastructure. It is not a revenue source for the provincial coffers. That is something that every municipality in this province can agree with. The District of Oak Bay passed a resolution at the Union of BC Municipalities, and they started to touch on it. We must together look for support outside of West Vancouver and fight the tax.
Thank you. Rosa, how are you going to fight the school tax?
I don't believe in increasing taxes. As I said, I would like to focus on taking advantage of the assets that we have. So many people immigrated to Canada based on under the category of business or investors. Because they didn't know what to do here, they did exactly what each one of us would do had we gone to their countries. What they did is buying houses, which is wrong. But that's not their fault, it's our fault because we didn't plan well to start with when we brought them here. What I would do is to increase the revenue with other ideas, the new ideas. And then I will invite our investors and our intellectual properties, being other of us, and experienced seniors who have been involved in the community, and I will support our investors with the help of public and private sectors. I will run the projects that increase the revenue of our city to be able to spend money better. Before all of that, the first 10 days, if I get to be elected, I will analyze first the business of West Vancouver to see what have they done with our budget, what needs to be done, where is the missing control.
Thank you, Rosa. Marianne?
So I just want to clarify, I actually didn't criticize Mr. Sager for the rally. I actually criticized him for the inaction after the rally. On the contrary, I actually have done something, and I don't believe in just railing in the media and to a large crowd. I actually made an appointment with Minister of Finance, Carol James, on September 11th, because you know what? I am opposed to this tax. It's taking $50 million out of this community, 25% of the overall revenue generated from the school tax is coming from West Vancouver. Half of our houses are impacted. That's 7,000 houses. And you know what? I'm very worried when the people get their tax bill next year when they open it. I am concerned about that. So I did meet, along with Councillor Gambioli, with Minister of Finance on September 11th. And you know what? Given that we don't have as much leverage as we could because we have, we don't have an NDP MLA here, I went in with some proposals, some asks. I had 5 asks, and I won't go through them because I'm going to run out of time, but I'll give you the first and I'll give you the last. The first was, can we make it fairer? Why is it just over $3 million? Why can't it be spread more fairly across the province? And the last ask out of the 5 was, can you give us some of the money back for affordable housing? Because we have a real crisis in West Vancouver. And you know what? She said, thank you for these suggestions, and I want to see you after the election. I want to consider these, and I want you to come back. And Councillor Gambioli has been following up as well. And so that's why I mentioned, I talked about Mr. Sager. It wasn't a criticism of the rally. It was, I'm a solution-oriented doer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Christine? Christine?
Well, I will build on what Mr. Sager and Councillor Booth had to say because I'm in complete agreement with them. So first of all, once the NDP government was elected, you had to know they were going to hit our pocketbooks, quite simply. You've never seen an investment advisor yet, or anybody who invests in the stock market, whoever votes NDP. You know they're going to come after our pocketbooks. But all that being said, and I do not wish to reiterate what has already been said, but we do need to go in and we do need to negotiate long and we need to negotiate hard. But quite frankly, in the words of Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them, and you got to know when to walk away. So the point is, how much of this money can we begin to negotiate to get back into West Vancouver that we can use for our own purposes? And so that's what I would be working on, is that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, you want to use a card?
Sorry, got to use the card. Because I've got the newspaper clipping, and I just think it's fair that we make sure we all talk about the facts. This is from the Star Vancouver, September 17th issue. And it says, the two disagree about how to best tackle the problem. This is Sager and Booth. Booth said she supports the province's attempt to cool the market through speculation tax. You've got to have both the supply side and demand side dealt with, she said. Municipalities need to step up and start approving supply. Okay, and the criticism, maybe I'm too sensitive. Shall we hold rallies such as the Citizen Town Hall meeting on June 7th at the Kamiq Center, chaired by Mr. Sager? I attended the meeting, but found it less than strategic and largely unappealing. West Vancouver is better than that. Most important, almost 4 months have passed, and what is the result? Well, I'm not the mayor yet. Thank you. And also, and this I've got to take really seriously, and I'm sorry, Marianne, I like you, and But this is wrong and this is naive. 2 members of council do not go and meet with the Minister of Finance on their own. That requires council resolution, it requires a plan, it requires the support of the community. It is irresponsible for any member of council to go and have a meeting, and she says here, she was interested in our suggestions, invited us to come back and have a chance to consider them. What were the suggestions? Did you run them past all the members of council? Did you have a council resolution? Is this supported by the community? This is serious business, ladies and gentlemen, and it is improper for 1 member or 2 members of council to go without the complete support, or at least the majority support by resolution. Thank you.
Marianne, you want to use a card?
Oh, sorry. I'm using a card, and Mr. Sager, I apologize because I am a prosecutor, so I can't resist a debate. The first is that, yes, I was in support of the speculation taxes. In fact, all of council supported a resolution of me and Councillor Cameron to take steps to cool offshore speculation in residential real estate. We are actually talking about the school tax, which is a different thing. So I'm going to focus on the school tax. First of all, council 6 votes supported our mayor going and leading the charge on this. He, I know, met with the MLAs, the Liberal MLAs, didn't feel he was getting anywhere, and so was encouraging residents to write the province themselves. The meeting with UBC at UBCM, all of council was invited. I always, as a routine practice, since I was on the school board, request meetings with critical ministers at each UBCM, and only Councillor Gambioli attended. So council knew. They were all invited, they knew what we were going to do, they were briefed ahead of time on the options that we were going to present, and then I came back and gave them a full report. And you know what? I wasn't mayor either when I attended the meeting. I wasn't going to wait. So it's that important to me.
Thank you. How have you been involved in the local business community? And as mayor, how would you see this change? Christine?
Well, as a resident of West Vancouver, I've been involved in the local business community in that I frequent all of the shops and I definitely frequent all of the restaurants. And as a mayor, I would continue to do so. But most importantly, for our businesses, I would begin to be having those conversations, for example, around parking that businesses would have to be potentially notifying through little signs in the windows that there's actually parking in the back. I'd be having conversations with the Legion, for example, where there's surface parking that is not being utilized, and asking them if they would put that out for use, either by way of charging on a daily basis or by some part of the fact that they would be getting a permissive tax exemption. I would be asking for businesses that are not fully utilizing their parking during the course of the day to actually ask that we could be using it. I'd also be working towards the concept of potentially that we need another parkade, or a parkade actually at some place in West Vancouver. We missed a wonderful opportunity when we didn't purchase the Masonic Hall, but that ship has sailed. However, back in May, I was at the councillor meeting, mayor's meeting up in Whistler. And at that point in time, there was a gentleman whose name is Donald Lidston, and what he discussed is the fact that sooner or later we're going to have driverless cars. And driverless cars are coming to us sooner rather than later, and we will not be needing the same level of parking, and we will not be needing parkades to the same extent. So again, thinking towards the future, this has to be something that we need to comprehend, and also the fact that quite a number of our young people will never have a driver's license in their life because they don't plan on driving cars. So I would also be working towards bringing Uber in. I'd be asking for more taxis. I'd be asking for hailing from the street as an opportunity to cut the traffic and assist the businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, repeating the question, how have you been involved in the local business community? And as mayor, how would you see this change? Marianne?
So, 5 years ago when I got elected to council, I was concerned about the floundering town center. And fortuitously, one of my students that I taught at the Sauder School of Business reached out to me and said, Marianne, I want to be involved in the community. What can I do? And I said, you know what? We need to reinvigorate the Ambleside Business Association. And he said, I can do that. And so I supported him. And that eventually evolved into the new BIA, which I championed at the council table. It had been talked about for 20 years, a business improvement association. And now we have an organization that has a $500,000 budget, an excellent board and executive director. They have a strategic plan that involves wayfinding and marketing and parking strategy, and I was their first council liaison because I was so keen, and I attended every meeting and I supported them and reported back to council. I also always support my local business. Whether I'm renovating my house or throwing my election party, I use local business always. I think those are the three main things at this point, but I am a champion at the council table. Just to give you another example, when the farmers market was blocking businesses, I was maybe Councillor Gambioli supported this, but I was the lone champion to move away from the So Blue that was having troubles, and they got moved into Ambleside Park. It's been successful. They're still getting established, but I've actively stood up for our business community at the council table, and I'm really proud of the work of both the chamber, and I was the liaison to the chamber as well, both the chamber and the BIA.
Thank you. Rosa?
I dine in local restaurants all the time, and I use dry cleaners all the time, and I shop my clothes all the time. That's how I support as much as I can. I believe that what was the other? There are some short-term solutions to the problems that we have in a short period of time for the small business owners, and there are some other solutions that need more time to address them. As a short-term solutions, beside all of the other solutions that other candidates mentioned, I would, for example, consider validation for the parkings upon shopping from business owners. Or, for example, as long-term solutions, when we have underground parkings for new developments in the areas, in the other marketplaces that we are going to have in other parts of the town, as some of the 9-year-old students suggested me today as I was visiting some schools to ask their opinion and comments about solving some of our solutions. Some of them said we all have to go to the same place to shop, Park Royal, and that's part of the reason that it's always busy. So I believe that having all the facilities in one place is wrong. We should have similar facilities in other places. And in future, when any construction is going up, we should have enough underground parking for the other people,
Thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. I would also like to support our small business owners with new techniques. Nowadays, people are shopping online a lot. I don't think our small business owners in West Vancouver, as much as I searched, they didn't have.
Thank you,
online.
Rosa.
Thank you.
Just to repeat the question, how have you been involved in the local business community, and as mayor, how would you see this change? Mark? No, not until everyone's answered the same question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that's good. Ladies and gentlemen, my parents started their business in Dunderav. I was born or brought home to the room above where they started their small business. I, at 18 years of age, was asked by the local merchants to be president of the Dunderav Merchants Association. And in my entire life, with the exception of 1 year when I was clerking at the Court of Appeal, I have worked in our community. I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce since 1977, and I understand what it's like to own and run a small business in this community. I know what it's like to make the payroll and to pay the taxes, and it is challenging. Right now, as I'm you heard a lot of discussion earlier, huge challenge in getting staff. Our little business in Horseshoe Bay, we've had a help wanted sign up for months. Finally, after 8 months of applying for trying to find a staff member in our law firm in Ambleside this week, we actually got somebody. So my role in our community as the mayor does not change in support of the businesses, the small businesses that need to survive and are a vital part of how our community is seen. Thank you.
And using a card, Christine?
Yes, thank you very much. And I didn't know that Mr. Sager hadn't spoken already. This is our fourth meeting as mayoral candidates, and I just wanted to bring up this point. So you've asked one of the characteristics that one must have as a mayor, and that is to be collaborative. And in the 4 meetings, I have to keep reminding myself that we actually were a council of 6 and not a council of 1. In other words, not taking all the credit for the work that a council of 6 has done. So I took exception to the fact that Councillor Booth had said that she was responsible for the fact of moving the farmers market away from outside So Blue. In point of fact, what the farmers market wanted to do is they wanted to move to the community centre parking lot, which is what the rest of council did not want, because we felt it was not good, first of all, for that residential community, and secondly, we wanted to be able to ensure the vibrancy and the future of the farmers market, and thought that it could well die a slow death at that site. And we all agreed to move it to its present location. It wasn't a vision of 1, it was a vision of 6. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mary Ann, using your second and final card.
Yes, so I will disagree with my colleague's recollection of events. In fact, what happened was that council voted to keep the farmers market in the location in front of So Blue. I opposed it, was in the minority, lost the vote, but in my closing argument pleaded with staff to look for an alternative location, and just made the case, and spoke to our city manager afterwards and said, can't we find another location? And lo and behold, staff found the farmers market, Ambleside Park location. But so I disagree with the recollection that my colleague has, but I do agree with one thing she said, and that is this isn't about one person, and it is difficult sometimes to promote yourself. I do tend to talk in terms of we most of the time, and it is a council effort, but when you do voice your concerns and you do have success, you have to put that out when you're running for mayor.
Thank you. What do you feel are the 2 most important elements of the new economic development plan? Rosa?
The new economic development plan focuses on businesses in Ambleside and also the is that
Absolutely. What do you feel are the 2 most important elements of the new economic development plan?
Yeah, one moment. Can I answer this question after one person, please? I have some notes because I was not part of the council or this business before, but, oh yeah, sorry. Okay.
I did ask at the beginning who had read the report and you raised your hand.
Transit, tourist attraction, affordable housing, and partnership. These 3 subjects are discussed in economic development plan, which are the 3 subjects that 2 years ago when I was running for the council was the first things that I mentioned too, like having a hotel in the area to attract the tourists, and the visitors could go and shop from the businesses around, and we attract money from, we are outsourcing money. Affordable housing is the other part that councils are talking about. What I believe should be done is, well, of course, all of us believe in affordable housing, but the way that they suggested is a little bit different from the way that I would do. Partnership, part of that, which is also one of the subjects that I proposed 2 years ago, the partnership between public and government is another subject that I...
Thank you. What do you feel are the two most important elements of the new economic development plan? Mark?
Thanks, Ken. There's certainly more than two good ideas in that plan. It would be attracting some diverse businesses into our community. One that I absolutely support would be to find a quaint hotel somewhere in Ambleside. Actually, I kind of know the location I really miss the Park Royal Hotel down by the Capilano River, and would love to see something like that built in Ambleside. The other is seeing whether we could attract some other higher tech offices. Pretty tough to do, but it's certainly something to work on. Maybe up in the Cypress Village, I know that that's been considered and might be a good idea. Tough to pick just two, though.
Thank you. Christine?
Well, I am in complete agreement that we need a hotel. We are a flow-through community. If you want to spend your dollars and stay in West Vancouver, you're either going to stay in Horseshoe Bay, or you're going to potentially have a place on Capilano Road, or you're at the Pinnacle Hotel. So we do need a hotel in West Vancouver. We need one that is in keeping with West Vancouver. And if you ever want to go out and look at online at a hotel like the Shutters in Santa Monica, if you want to look at the Magnolia Hotel in Victoria, lovely little boutique hotels, very in keeping with the character that I think is wonderful here in West Vancouver. I would also like to be contemplating attracting a school into West Vancouver, whether we're attracting, for example, a satellite of Emily Carr, whether we're attracting some schooling towards studying the environment or such the like, because not only will we get a different revenue source as well by funds from the provincial government, but we also would be addressing a workforce source, because those students would be needing to finance their education and would be coming into the community to work in our shops and our restaurants and such the like. So that is what I would be doing. And I don't think we have to constantly be building new within Ambleside. I do recognize that we have an older building stock, but you know, a little bit of paint and a few nice awnings definitely create a different atmosphere there. And many, many successful restaurants have done very nice because they're funky. Look at Savory Island Pie Company. Thank you.
Thank you. Marianne?
So, number one, I do think the visitor strategy is one of the key recommendations that come out of the economic development plan. And there are a number of attractions that we can promote to visitors. The arts and culture strategy, I think, is a key component. And talking about a welcoming cultural center that embodies our current, as I said, mid-century modern, our artists like Gordon Smith, our First Nations art, that I think could be a huge attraction. The Spirit Trail, that now the missing link going into North Van, into Lower Lonsdale, is also a key attraction for families. I read the 20 successful ingredients of a successful destination, and one of them was public washrooms. The number one reason that visitors stop in a town center is for the washroom. So we need to enhance our public washrooms. And then, of course, a parking strategy, and I would support a parkade, because that's the other ingredient of a successful destination, is all-day parking. Some of the emerging opportunities have been mentioned around film and technology and green and healthcare, but I want to focus on one last thing: community land use. We are even though we made a decision of no industry, we are at a disadvantage having only 7% commercial. When Bowen Island, when I look at our capital plan, even has 16% commercial. All major other metro municipalities have 16, 13, 15% commercial contribution, and expanding our land-based use for business would really help our finances.
Thank you very much. Another question from the audience. If you were elected mayor, what would you do to make Ambleside Town Centre as successful as Park Royal? Maybe not quite as successful as Park Royal, but maybe more successful than some believe it to be now. Mark?
I see Rick Amonte sitting on the third row over there on the left-hand side. I don't think he's too worried. We've got a bit of work to do. Simple little things. I know this may sound crazy, but I'd like all of us to start thinking about Ambleside, not as Ambleside with just that name, but Ambleside Beach. If you go to California, you go to Manhattan Beach, Venice Beach. You know, just adding the word beach into our address makes it sound a little bit more fun. And that's what we've got to do. We have to change this image of West Vancouver becoming a sleepy retirement town. Let's get people to think of us as a community that's young, fit, and fun. I mean, my father's 97. He still thinks of himself as young and fun. So, you know, it's not too late. And we can make Ambleside fun. I was really happy to hear some of the council candidates earlier tonight talk about ideas that, I mean, I'm throwing them out there just to see what could happen. We've got empty spaces. I would personally call the owners of anybody that's got an empty space and say, let's open the doors up and put in some art. Let's showcase our art in our local community. That was the inspiration when I started the Harmony Arts Festival. You know, let's bring art into Ambleside. That would help enormously. There is opportunity. Rick, don't worry. It'll take us a while to catch up, but I'd sure like to do it.
Thank you. Mary Ann?
So I've given this a lot of thought, and I actually don't think we have to compete with Park Royal. Park Royal has a brand. They are definitely looking at attracting not independent but chain stores. Sephora, I know my girls love to go to Aritzia and Sephora and Forever 21. And you know what? We don't have to compete with that. But one thing we can learn from Park Royal is the coordinated marketing strategy. And that's why we now have a BIA that can be doing that with a $500,000 budget, so little business owners don't have to do it from the side of their desk. And I will agree with Mr. Sager tonight on one thing, and that is that there are great models. Venice Beach is one of them. It's very similar. It's a beach town. Don't think of the beach as what I'm talking about, but it's the main street. It's the high street. It's called Abbot Kinney, and it's a mixture of low-rise, sawtooth, no high-rises, and new businesses like Oak and Fort and brunch places, and they even have they have a farmer's market downtown, and they even have a chicken pen. So it's a real character, it's full of vibrancy, and I think we can learn, and it's all about independent businesses and experiences for our visitors, art galleries we can really capitalize on. So working with the BIA, the other thing I'd like to work with the BIA on, if elected mayor, is meeting with all the landlords. You know what? There are a lot of just absentee landlords, and we need to talk to them. What are your plans? What's holding you back? And offer them an incentive, and that might be increasing our allowable buildable modestly. The BIA hired Mr. Richard Wozni, and he recommended an increase in FAR would attract investment. But I can tell you what we're doing isn't working, and I intend to move forward with these ideas.
Thank you very much. Rosa?
One thing that will attract clients is the design, of course. I was talking about it in the other debate as well. When you read a book, you get to the space of the book. You get out of your space and enjoy the space, and that's why you read a book. When you go to a restaurant, you like the ambience. You like to get into that space and enjoy this space. So what we have to do is, of course, to make Ambleside more beautiful. We have to have better facades, and please take time tonight, tomorrow, if you can, go and look at some of the new technologies, new buildings. It's not the time of modernism anymore. It's called postmodernism. It's because the technology allows us to do better job faster, not simple, because robots, 3D printers, milling machines, all of those do their job faster and better. When I was studying in America in Los Angeles, I was living right beside Broad Museum of Art, which is an architectural gem. The start and finish of such a beautiful building took 1 year. I was monitoring it all the time. So it's not a scary thing. Technology, it's like the older time that when calculator came, my grandpa didn't know how to use it, and I taught him, look, it's faster, better, cheaper, easier, we can do that. Look at the Century City in Los Angeles. The art over there is all with new technologies, fast, easy, beautiful. Look at the SLA Hotel, small boutique hotel in Los Angeles. It's full of art used and built with new technology again. That's what I like to do, beside the fact that I appreciate what Mark Sager did with Dundrave. That boulevard added a lot of beauty, or the jaywalk part. I agree with that. We can have those parts added too. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine?
Well, I don't think that we are going to compete with Park Royal, and I don't want to compete with Park Royal. I don't feel that, well, first of all, I don't shop much at Park Royal, to be honest with you, except Whole Foods. But anyway, the long and the short of the scenes, and why don't I shop at Park Royal? I don't shop at Park Royal because Park Royal is an impersonal entity that you go, you do your business, and you leave. It is not an experience. Why would you come to Ambleside and Dunderave? Because it is an emotional experience. You are engaged in the process of shopping. You are engaged in the process of eating and dining there. You are there to get to know the individual who owns that shop, because there's independent business owners, and it really is an experience. And what I would want to do is I want to incentivize those landlords who presently are holding on to those shops and restaurants to actually take the time and the energy with very, very simple, such as Jason did at Farm to Table, some paint, some new awnings, some wash on your windows, decorate your windows and such like. Because coming to Ambleside and Dunderave, it is an emotional experience. You're by the sea, you are a draw, you are a brand, and that is what people will think of when they think of Ambleside and Dunderave. Much like they go to Commercial Drive for a particular reason, they go to Main Street for a particular reason, they go to 4th Avenue for a particular reason. Those are emotional experiences. Going to the downtown core, that is a different situation. Thank you.
So clearly, regardless of who is elected mayor, I would just like to point out that that is the sun rising over Ambleside, not setting over Ambleside, in case there's any confusion about that. Thank you. We'll now go to the candidates' closing statements of 2 minutes each, and we'll go in reverse order, starting with Rosa.
Thank you very much for having me in Canada and here right now. I always appreciate you, and I would love to give back. Whether you choose me or not, I am there for you, and I will definitely support the city and whomever is the mayor and councils with whatever I have in my hand, whatever I gained through years of working hard and schooling hard. All of them will be accessible to you. We just looked at a plan at the other meeting, which was a 4-story new development that Mark was talking about. To me, making that just take 10 minutes, truly 10 minutes with new technology. I don't need months to do that. You don't need to pay $50,000 to the consultants to review that. I will do that for you. I will donate it to you. I owe you. I appreciate you. I am decisive. I had the guts to come here from other parts of the world, to go back to school, to try hard, to gain, to keep up with your standards, and all of them will be at your service. I promise that. I'm not going to blame anybody in future, though I will analyze the business of City of West Vancouver just to find better ways to serve you. And I will do my best to support you and the community, and to give back. Thank you.
Thank you. Marianne?
A few weeks ago, I wrote a newsletter entitled, "It's Time to Ask Your Mayoral Candidate Some Tough Questions." I think I can say on behalf of all of us that you have done that well tonight. I've spent the past 6 months listening to hundreds of residents through a series of community forums. What have I learned? That you worry about seniors being forced to leave as they face rents they can no longer afford. That you can't understand why our sports facilities pale in comparison to other municipalities. That you finally want to see something done with the Clee-Wick property that now lies in ruin. That you were pleased to see a Locals First initiative created for the Sewells development. And that you know we must find better ways to involve newcomers in our community. And I didn't even mention housing affordability, fiscal prudence, and traffic. The mission statement of the district is simple: inspire excellence and lead by example. Which of us in front of you tonight can do that? Well, I hope that those who have worked with me during my 13 years in public office would say that I'm not afraid of audacious goals. And I understand as a leader, it is my responsibility to ensure that the right things happen. That I fully understand that at the heart of any success we may have as a council is a supportive and positive work culture. That I have high expectations of myself and others, but that the ethical values of respect, fairness, honesty, and integrity guide my actions always. That I am compassionate, I can be trusted, and I have a proven track record of getting things done. And finally, that I very much want this position. But please know that my ambition is for the community, for the work we need to do together, and not for myself. Thank you for listening. Now I'm asking for your vote.
Mark?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ken, for chairing this excellent meeting this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I love this community. I've had the honor of serving you for 20 years. I now bring 20 years of experience on the other side of the table. I know how we can get things done. In my past time, I'm proud of the Harmony Arts Festival, the Seawall, the Seaview Trail, the first National Underwater Park. The list goes on, and it all came about because we had a cooperative team on council. We need that. We need someone who can bring everyone together in a respectful manner, bring our community back together. I love that role. Ladies and gentlemen, the job of being mayor has not changed. Some things change, some things remain the same, but the number one role we have is to guide the community and be responsible to you, the taxpayers, for how the money is spent in this community. That's job one. And I take that very seriously. I would ask for your support so that we can put the train back on track, we maintain the character of West Vancouver, and we have sound financial management going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. My name is Mark Sager, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Christine?
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is 2018. This is not 1996. 22 years have passed since Mr. Sager was the mayor, and a lot of things have changed since then. So most importantly, what has changed is West Vancouver is now facing the winds of change. For the first time since 2008, we actually have a mayoral competition. And the advanced poll results have shown the anticipation of what our voters are expecting. The numbers are double as far as the turnout is concerned. So why would you vote for me? First of all, as I said, the winds of change. I do not represent the status quo. I did not spend 13 years making my way up from the pack to the school board to council. I did not sit 7 years on council before I ran for mayor. I spent 4 years, I got the idea, and I'm ready to lead. I got the idea of what I liked and what I didn't like, and it didn't take much more than that to determine that I could do the job, and I could do the job very effectively. Thank you. You say that you criticize the previous administration, or what it did do and what it didn't do, but one of our candidates has said that she votes the most like Smith of anyone on council. We have a candidate who has been criticizing previous administrations, and yet he sought the endorsement of Mayor Smith, who has served for 21 years in public office. I would not criticize a man who has given 21 years of his life to this community. So I've only asked for the endorsement of the public. That's number one. I do not represent the status quo. Number two, please look at my voting record. I walked the walk, I talked the talk. I stayed true to the platform that I had 4 years ago. I stood strong and I supported that. Number three, I have absolutely no background in the development community. If you Google my name, and I suggest you Google others, I have no background in development. So I am totally and utterly objective. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the candidates will be available after the debate for your individual questions if you're interested. It's pretty obvious to me, and I suspect to you, that running for mayor in West Vancouver is not for the faint of heart. That you want to have some ideas and you want to put them forward for public consideration and debate. And you're also very passionate and committed to your community in order to step up and sit up here and debate through this evening. So I ask you to join me in recognizing and honoring these four community leaders for West Vancouver. I would now call on the President of the Chamber of Commerce to close this evening.
Thank you all for attending this evening. I'd like to give once more acknowledgement to Dr. Ken Haycock for facilitating the evening tonight. I think he did a great job of keeping us on track. And who did keep us on track? Louis Cepena, thank you very much for your time and keeping everybody in order. I'd like to thank all those, of course, Sarah Mohammadkhani, our new executive director, who's putting the chamber back on track and is very excited to work with our new team that you're going to bring into place on Saturday. I'm speaking to the converted, you're here, you're voting, I get it. Get out and get your friends to vote, your kids to vote. It's so important that we get a council that will work with our business community. It's very important, and we want to work with a council that will, have those values that we endear so much. So, enjoy. Great to have you here, and see you on Saturday.